Living when I felt like dying taught me the meaning of suffering. After Andrew's death, I was the lowest I've ever been in my life. It felt like death, but my heart kept beating. I said over and over, I can't do this. It's too hard. Breathing hurt. As I watched the rise and fall of my chest, it proved that I was still alive. But inside, I felt dead. Nothing eased the pain. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I prayed that it was a nightmare, that a mistake had been made. Because I had no proof of Andrew's death, I couldn't believe that it was true. I would sit perfectly still in my living room, waiting to hear the back door chime and see Andrew walk through the door. They had to be wrong. This was my life, night after night. If this is you, dear one, please know that you're not alone. I've walked through the fire, and I'm here to help you do the same. Today, we are going to discuss the best way to meet your individual grief needs. Are you lost in the chaos of grief, struggling to find your way in the darkness? Are you asking yourself, will I ever be able to enjoy life again? Are you wondering where God is right now? Welcome to the Grief Mentor Show. This podcast is a safe place for you. It will shine a light into the shadows, helping you discover that joy and pain can coexist, that you still have purpose, and there is a path to peace. Hello, friend. I'm Teresa Davis. I, too, was lost in the chaos of grief the day my son died. Just like you, I longed for peace in this unfamiliar world. I longed for the weight crushing my chest to be lifted so I could breathe. I clung tightly to the anchor, and it was there that I discovered the tools I needed to navigate life after loss. And I'm ready to help you do the same. If you're ready, I'm holding my hand out to you, friend. Let me show you the way, one step at a time. Counselor, grief coach, or mentor, what is the difference, and which one is right for you? Let's start today with the definition of practice for each one of these. A counselor or a therapist is a licensed professional that focuses on the impact the past has on the individual, helping them to heal pain and dysfunction. They can treat mental illness and equip the client to better understand their responses in life based on their past and moving forward in the future. Now, that's a simple definition, but it may help you understand the difference between a coach and a counselor. A coach, on the other hand, in my case, a grief coach, supports clients by helping them work through their feelings about the death of their loved one. They help them prepare for their future. They offer emotional support, healing through tools, and a way to deal with suffering and bereavement. Now, to restate, grief coaching is future-focused and solution-oriented, aiming to support you in moving forward, creating a fulfilling life after loss. In contrast, therapy often focuses on exploring past experiences, deep-rooted emotional issues that affect how you live your life going forward. They help us determine why we make the choices we do based on our past. Basically, they help us see why we process life the way we do. Grief coaching helps individuals process their grief and navigate the complex emotions accompanying loss. It's proactive, future-oriented. We don't delve into your past. We deal with what's right in front of you and what's ahead of you. And it empowers clients to take meaningful steps toward healing and embracing life again. You may have noticed that there are similar benefits that you'll receive from a counselor and/or a grief coach or mentor. Are you wondering what the difference is between a grief coach and a grief mentor? There's not much of a difference, honestly, but I prefer to be called a mentor for this reason. A coach is someone who has gained knowledge and uses that knowledge to help clients achieve their goals going forward. A grief mentor is someone who uses their knowledge gained to help clients achieve their goals from a combined perspective of research and education, but also from living what they are teaching. If you listened to my opening of this episode and you've experienced child loss, then you know I've walked through the same fire that you have. In my opinion, Seeking help to process your grief in either or both of these avenues is a very good thing. Each of us have different grief journeys with different needs that seek to be met in individual ways. In my personal grief journey, I went to traditional therapy for about 18 months after Andrew's death. I needed intense therapy, and I couldn't get it any other way. I'm a huge proponent of counseling. I still touch base with my counselor from time to time. This is a good thing, and here's why. Different treatment modalities manage grief in similar but different ways. And your grief needs change as you change and grow. Options are always a good thing. Personally, I did a combination of many things. I read every book I could get my hands on to figure out how to survive. They helped me, but I needed more. Tony and I attended Grief Share twice. We attended 2 grief retreats. One was 6 months after Andrew's death, and one was about 2 years out because COVID hit and it was delayed. While I was doing all the above, I was seeing a counselor every single week. To date, I've had 3 counselors, all of whom were exactly what I needed. The first counselor was an elderly man who was the best listener I've ever met in my life. He was a Christian and full of knowledge and scripture. After a few months, I realized I needed more because of the trauma. And if you're listening today and you've experienced a sudden death of your child, my dear friend, you have experienced trauma. What I didn't realize, however, at the time was how significant the trauma was that I had experienced. I didn't even understand what a trigger was. I was living in a state of fight or flight day in and day out, and my body was struggling to survive, and I had no idea what to do. I talked to my counselor at that time, and he said, it's time for you to get help for this trauma. Finding a counselor that offered what I needed, however, was indeed a challenge. I was desperate, and I was about to give up hope. After 3 weeks of searching and searching, no one responded to my calls. Finally, I was willing to see someone in Indianapolis, which is about an hour and a half away from me. Thankfully, just before that appointment, one of the counselors reached out to me after I'd left a message. She said she heard the desperation in my voice and couldn't turn me away. I thank God for her. Here's the thing. Every counselor I called said that they were booked out for more than 3 weeks and they couldn't add any new clients. By the way, the website that I recommend if you're looking for a counselor is psychologytoday.com. It's an excellent website. There are numerous filters that you can search for that you can plug in if you want male or female, location, your zip code, what specific type of counseling you're looking for. It's a great website. So if you are looking for a counselor, then that's a great place to go. But fair warning, they're very difficult to get into sometimes. There's such a huge need, especially post-COVID. And because of the high demand, counseling fees are quite expensive. Some, however, will base it on your income, but that's something that you need to set in place beforehand. If you are able to get into someone, that's a question that you can ask them before you solidify your appointment, if they are willing to base it on your income. Some do, some don't. You just have to ask. I was being charged $160 for 40 minutes. And she didn't go over not even 1 minute. Her fees are much higher now. She charges $225 per session because of the demand and her experience. However, at the time when I was going to counseling for her, I was willing to pay that $160 per session because at that time in my life, I literally thought I was going to die under the weight of Andrew's death. I saw her weekly for 18 months. Was it costly? Yes, it was. But would I be where I am now without it? I do not believe I would. After the trauma work, I took a break from counseling. Then after about a year, some new things came up, and I needed some feedback because, truthfully, friends, our thoughts inside the mind of a grieving heart can be very deceiving. So I went back. I didn't need that intense trauma work, just someone to help me see things with clarity. My integrative hormone specialist recommended someone for me, and she was a great fit. I still see her today from time to time. What I learned from all of these resources was great and very much needed. But here's the thing. They couldn't truly understand what I was going through because they had not lived it. All their advice and counseling came from a place of experience that they learned from textbook and clients. Please hear me. I am so very thankful for their guidance. But at the end of the day, they didn't know how to get to the complexity of the matter. They could empathize, but not truly get it. I was left wanting more. And that, my friend, is why I am here, working hard for you. I decided after all my grief work that what I needed most was someone who had walked the road and survived, and not just survived, but learned to live again after the devastation of child loss. So you may be asking, why spend your time and money with me? I'm a licensed professional that's been in practice as an RN for 40 years. I was taught and trained in life and death. Over my career, I've worked with many different patient populations that has taught me valuable life lessons. As a new nurse, I learned what dying a slow death through chronic renal failure looked like. And I witnessed more suffering than I thought possible in a physical sense. As an oncology nurse, I learned what true gratitude really looks like. As an emergency room nurse, I prepared myself as a CEN, that's a certified emergency room nurse. I excelled in responding to acute MIs and strokes, absorbing the thrill of success in saving lives and the devastation of feeling life slip away from the body and returning to tell the family that their loved one didn't make it. I've held in my arms grieving moms and dads, wives, sisters, brothers, and children as the news brought them to their knees. I saw more death than I could have ever imagined, but I also saw hope, the hope of another chance when life was sustained. While my time of 10 years in the ER will forever mark my life, the lessons I learned there taught me the fragility of life. As you can tell, it still affects me today. When it was time to move on, I excelled in the field of GI nursing. I prepared and tested to become SGNA certified as well as ambulatory care certified, and that is where I still am today. To be clear, I do not hold a license as a counselor or therapist, nor do I want to. My expertise is with those that grieve. By teaching, guiding, providing support and feedback, I give you tools to successfully navigate your grief journey, to live with hope after the death of your child. Looking back, I now realize I was being equipped for this role my whole life. To mirror Dr. H. Norman Wright's words, my lessons in life as well as death has taught me far more than any textbook or classroom ever could attempt to do. With that said, I am a seeker of knowledge. As you have witnessed in today's episode, and I continually seek knowledge that I need to better serve each one of you. In addition to being a podcaster, I'm an author and a speaker. I authored my own personal journey of grief in the devotion book, Finding Hope and Healing in the Midst of Grief. And I co-authored 3 additional devotion books, Think About, Fruitful, and We Get You, the latter being published June 2023 by Redemption Press. Myself and 4 other speakers provide women's events through a ministry called Sisters Forward. The most recent training for speakers that I attended was the Christian Communicators Conference, July 2022. I had the privilege of spending time with speakers such as Carol Kent. Currently, I'm enrolled in a 12-month training program on equipping those I serve through podcasting. I've had the privilege to be featured on podcasts such as While We're Waiting with Jill Sullivan, Friends of a Feather with Ren Robbins, Glory Tellers with Emily Burke and Beth Ann Hubert, and the Crappy Christian Podcast with a girl named Blake. My most recent publication, Navigating Life After Loss, was released in the form of an article for today's Transition magazine, Winter Edition, January 2024. In regards to meeting your grief needs, I've developed a program that addresses the 6 main hurdles or pain points of grief. These are outlined on my website one by one on my Work With Me page. If you decide to work with me, then we'll start exactly where you are. In that first session, we will tackle your biggest pain point. You'll walk away with tools that you can implement right away. I will help you reframe your thoughts that'll release that ball and chain you're carrying around. Afterwards, I will send notes with you with bullet points per email for each step we discuss that meets your needs, along with a digital workbook that'll reinforce what you learned on the call. The reason I do this, friends, for all of my clients is because I remember walking out of my counselor's office during those really difficult times, trying to remember everything that was said, which of course I couldn't. Eventually, I put a notebook in my car, and as soon as I sat in that seat, I would rush to write down every bullet point that I could remember. I don't want you to have to do that. I want you to be able to sit and absorb every single word. I have a video-driven, self-guided course with all of the content for the 6 pain points or hurdles, with workbooks for each model. However, the current course is on hold because I'm revising it to make it more digestible. Now, for all of you that purchased the current course, no worries, you will get the revised course for free. I wasn't going to mention the revision just yet, but I've had several of you reach out and ask about the course. The reason that I'm revising it is because I want to break down the video content into smaller, more digestible pieces. It has about an hour's worth of video content per module. In total, there's 6.5 hours of video. I'm also adding one more module. It'll still be 6 modules, but laid out a bit different. As I said, more digestible. I don't have a release date as of yet because I'm in the very beginning stages of the revision. But I will keep you updated. I am in a mastermind course that is taking a large amount of my time and focus. So I am working through it while juggling all the other balls in my life. And as you all know, I still work as an RN. Thankfully, Tony retired, so I do not have the burden of managing all of our marketing, which has been a huge relief. But the podcast is very time consuming, and I love doing that because I know that it's helping you, and that's what drives me. But juggling it all, keeping it where I want it to be while learning how to serve you better is definitely a challenge. I appreciate your prayers. And if you have any additional questions about the program, the cost, or whether or not we would be a good fit, visit my website at thegriefmentor.com. Currently, I am only offering Grief Mentor sessions because, as I've already stated, the course is in a stage of being revised, and it's probably going to be several months before that's going to be available again. But I will keep you updated, and you will be informed when the launch and all of that is going to take place. But just to give you a heads up, when you go to the website, you will not see the course. You will just see the mentor sessions. Today's episode has a lot of content, but I wanted you to be informed in a more personal way. And now I will have an episode that I can refer folks back to so that I don't have to deliver all of this information per email. Prayerfully consider what is the best path for you. And I will tell you from my personal experience and working with other clients as well, having many resources available is a great plan. Only you know what's best for you and what you need to process this grief journey that you're in. Prayerfully consider what is the best path for you. I will leave you with God's words today. The Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of your life. Though you stumble, you will never fall, for the Lord holds you by the hand. Psalms 37:23. And that's all I have for you today, guys. So until next time, take care. Are you a Grief Mentor Insider? I have a free grief survival guide on my website and a song list that I have created along the way in my grief journey. I would love to share that with you. Visit thegriefmentor.com's website and join today. Did today's episode touch your heart? I pray that it did. Did you walk away a little lighter? If you did, would you share this episode with someone that you know needs to hear it? And could you take 30 seconds to leave me a review on Apple Podcast? I would so appreciate it if you did. From my heart to yours, see you next week.